Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing good. Alright, and I'm going to be interviewing you today. Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 85.
Okay. So, I'm just going to be interviewing you about some of the experiences you had throughout your life and things like that.
Okay.
So, the first question I wanted to ask was, how was your life different as a child than it is for children today?
Well, that's a good question. The way I was raised is totally different from how all of the kids are raised today. It was very different when I was a child. Let's start there. We didn't have the technology and the conveniences that a lot of children have today, like those smart cars that you have. Like, we didn't have all of that. So that's just one example. We played outside more and used our imagination for entertainment. I know a lot of kids now, they have their devices glued to their hands. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what my childhood was like. We played outside. Our parents wanted us to explore outdoors. And, family life was more centered around spending time together. We all actually ate at the table when our parents cooked dinner. Like, that was mandatory for all of us to eat together and talk to each other. There wasn't as much distraction as there is now with the kids because the screens and the devices has completely taken over. This is a very technological world, and it's just taken over, and families are being ripped apart from it, if you ask my opinion. So honestly, we had more face-to-face interactions, and family units were much closer. I didn't grow up on a farm, but I do remember hearing stories about, some of my relatives who did. A typical day for them would be, just working hard and tending to animals and working in the fields. But those were some of my older family members.
All right. And then another question I have is, who were your role models growing up whenever you were younger?
Besides my mom and dad, they were great role models. I would say community leaders and activists who were fighting for civil rights at the time. They definitely inspired me to stand up for justice.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Now, I would like to move on to the education that you had growing up. How many years did you attend school?
Honestly, I attended school for a limited number amount of years. I didn't get as much education because it wasn't as accessible, because of the color of my skin and due to financial constraints and racial segregation. So my parents did the best that they could, and I'm currently doing the best that I could for my family. But it was basically financial constraints and segregation at that time.
Thank you for that. Was everyone able to attend school whenever you were growing up?
Not everyone in my family. My mom only could afford to send my brother and my older sister to school. And especially beyond elementary levels, it was just really hard. And at that time, discrimination and the limited opportunities available to Black students, it just wasn't there. So, looking at how it is now, I'm just happy that, times have changed and more African American students are able to get a higher education.
Okay, and then how were schools different back then to now?
In the low income neighborhoods, like where we were raised, resources were scarce. We received older textbooks that weren't in the best conditions compared to, different races in their communities. We used a lot of outdated textbooks, and our facilities compared to their facilities were very, I would say, diminished, and it wasn't in the best conditions.
All right, I'm sorry to hear about that. Can I ask what subjects you remember studying while you were at school?
I studied the basics, like, math, the common maths and English and arithmetic, and but opportunities for advanced education were extremely limited. My mom, again, did the best she could.
All right. I wanted to ask you about, well, whenever you were younger, there was a lot of major historical events that happened. I was just wondering, which wars or specific historical events do you remember?
Well, now you're asking me for my age. I'm going to tell my age here. The Second World War and the Civil Rights Movement, those events shaped my perspective on the world. And basically, the fight for equality, it just changed my perspective on a lot of things.
All right, thank you so much for that. Which parts did you play, either at home or on the battlefield? Like, were you a nurse or were you a lot younger?
I was a lot younger.
Okay.
I was a lot younger, so I didn't really get too involved. My parents protected me and just told me to kind of remain neutral as much as I could, but still hold on to my beliefs.
All right. How was your life changed by the wars?
Of course, racial segregation affected every aspect of my life. For where couldn't get the opportunities available to me, which is a constant struggle for equal rights, and so a lot of people fight for it.
All right, and by your answers, I can tell that you are very impacted by segregation and racial prejudice, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember where you were, what you were doing, and your reaction to the news of the 20th century, like the Kennedy's assassination or the man walking on the moon, the Iran hostage crisis?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot going on. It left lasting impressions, those, especially with JFK's assassination. It was, that touched me. He was a very good person, and I believed in him and everything that he was doing for the country. But these events were discussed in the community. I heard my mom and dad talk about it, and everyone had very strong reactions.
Thank you for that. Now, I wanted to talk about the society and also the economic structure back then. How has the community changed since you were a child?
Well, definitely, I would start with diversity. A lot of racial barriers have diminished, though there's a lot of work to be done,
Yeah.
It's always, still prejudice in the world, and but, we've made long strides.
Yeah, I believe we have as well. In your lifetime, what do you think has been society's greatest challenge?
I would say racial inequality. It's a challenge that sadly still persists, It still happens, and it's just some things that's just going to continue due to like generational family beliefs.
Yes. What kind of work did you do in your lifetime?
I worked in various roles, often facing discrimination on the job. The American standard of living has improved overall, but disparities still exist. You have more questions for me, or you want to know about
What kind of job did you do?
Oh, a kind of job? Telephone operator. That was the longest.
Okay. What observations can you make about changing in America, the standard of living, and its overall economic health?
It's improved overall.
All right. Now I wanted to ask you about politics and government. It's a big issue now, and it's always a really big issue, especially when religion and racial preferences and racism gets thrown into the mix. Who was your favorite president and why?
Well, honestly, throughout history, I've seen a lot more presidents than you, but I would say that my favorite president was Barack Obama for sure, because of what he's done for the country. My least favorite was the Trump guy. He he just said a lot of racial things that didn't sit right with me. So I would definitely say he was the least.
All right, and then I wanted to ask you one last question about politics. Are Americans more politically divided today than they were earlier in your lifetime? Because I know it was incredibly divided with, the racial stuff going on and all the wars and different things. So do you think it was more divided back then or now?
Honestly, political divisions have always existed, but they seem more pronounced today, due to like factors like media and polarization. But yeah, they've always existed. Always existed.
All right. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about technology. I know that, it's not really your strong suit, but I wanted to ask, what inventions do you absolutely love and that you believe have changed your life for the better?
Well, technology is definitely hard for me, working these new smart devices, but inventions like the internet and smartphones have changed communication drastically, and it gives you more access to information. I would say the most dramatic impact came from the widespread availability of electricity,
Yeah.
Even working for the telephone company, it's just bringing light and convenience to more homes. So,
All right. And then can I also ask, I wanted to ask about gender roles because I know that, back then it was more acceptable or more current for like the women to stay in the kitchen, in the house, and cook and clean, take care of the children, and the man to go to work. How has the role of women in the home, workplace, and community changed in your lifetime?
I would say just seeing my mom, she was definitely one of those women that was always in the kitchen and taking care of the home. But I would say the role of women has evolved significantly for sure. More opportunities are available in the workplace. A lot of my grandchildren are, leading roles. Like a lot of my granddaughters are taking top positions, and I'm very proud of them. And societal expectations have definitely shifted over the years. And as a Black woman myself, expectations were often limited when I was growing up, but I worked to challenge and exceed them by way of my children, making sure that they had a way when I didn't. So progress has been made, but there's still much work to be done.
Did you ever conform to these the traditional gender roles, or were you more going to the workplace and not really confining to that?
Honestly, back then I had to, kind of confine myself to what the society norms were. I couldn't really go against it, or there were like repercussions for my actions. So I just kind of was one of those people that kind of fell in line and didn't want to fight. But diversity and visibility have improved during this time, but there's more work to be done for true equality and understanding for sure.
All right, and then I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about yourself, pop culture, popular culture.
What's that?
Well, just popular culture.
Oh,
like
okay.
social media, things that you see day to day. What type of things do you do for fun? Any activities? Do you do any like recreational sports or anything like that?
Well, my bones won't allow me, but I do like to do aerobics at the YMCA.
All right.
That helps me out. Walking, I don't do too much, but there is a lot of stuff out there that I see younger kids do.
All right, and what is your reaction to the clothing style changing from whenever you were a kid and a teenager and then a young adult to now?
I would say we were more covered for sure. Today's fashion is more eclectic and individualistic, I would say. People are kind of catering to who they are, and their clothing is like their self-expression. Back in my day, it wasn't like that. We all kind of covered up, buttoned up, and had our boots strapped tight. So, yeah, it's a lot different for sure.
has your music taste changed over the years, or just music in general?
A lot more cursing in the music nowadays. I liked listen to more bands, with more instruments and music. But now, all the rap stuff is just too much for me and my ears. But it definitely changed a lot. The music back then was more soulful, more of spreading love, and now it's more divisive and more angry. So, yeah, I would say that.
Thank you so much for answering all of my questions. I really appreciate it. Now, I wanted to ask you two more questions just to reflect over your life and anything else. First question is, if you were able to do your life all over again, what would you do differently?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think I would have continued or at least tried to fight for equality and justice, but perhaps in an even more impactful way. Yeah, I would have done that better.
Thank you so much. And then, what advice would you give to future generations, like your grandchildren or their kids?
I would say to stay more informed, stay in tune with politics to see what's going on. Be careful who you vote for, because the people that we place in office dictate our future. Be resilient in the face of adversity, and never stop fighting for what's right. It's a lot of wrong and bad things going on in the world, but fighting for what's right is always the right way. And I would say embrace diversity and work towards a more inclusive society, because we're all made the same. We all are made with the same things, same bones. We all got blood, and we're all the same, just different colors, shapes, and sizes. So I would definitely say embrace diversity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Precious, for allowing me to come here and interview you today. I hope that you had a great time, and yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You had me reflect over some years, young lady. But thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have an amazing college career, and you're going to do great.
Thank you.